Hey everybody, welcome back. Well, almost a weekend. Hope you've been having a good week. I've been off from work this whole week, going back to work on Monday, and I have to put in 4 days. The kids are on break, fall break for another 4 days, and I get next Friday off, and off Columbus Day too, and Indigenous Peoples Day, and that's Monday, October 13th. So I get another 4 day weekend after next week. So anyways, I wanted to talk about the pros and cons of the common steaks that are out there, and also, my opinion, the best way to cook a steak. A few good ways. Um, if you're looking for healthy cuts, you'll start off with sirloin. Sirloin, I'm not really a fan of it. If you're looking for like a healthy cut, that is the way to go, along with filet mignon. The sirloin is more budget friendly. It doesn't have hardly any fat. It doesn't have a whole lot of flavor. It is kind of on the tougher side. I don't like to marinate my steaks. I just like to season them. I just like the taste. I think a steak, if it's a really good steak, which like I don't think sirloin is the best, but like a good steak stands well just on its own with just a seasoning, no sauce or anything like that. No A1 steak sauce or Heinz 57 sauce is needed, I don't think. I think that just kind of that's kind of like ketchup. Some people actually put ketchup on steak. Maybe a shitty steak, but like I said, it's a good steak. You're just kind of like ruining it, disguising it. Some people really take that as an insult, putting ketchup on steak. It's like, just try it first. There's some people that actually season their steak, and chefs are like, come on, try it. I already seasoned it. Just try it first before you, don't just automatically salt it. So, sirloin is one of those steaks, like franchises have that steak on their menu, like TGI Fridays, Ruby Tuesdays, Bennigan's, Applebee's, Texas Roadhouse, and it's kind of on the saltier side because I think they usually admit that they marinate it to make it more tender, because it is kind of, they have very low fat, so it's kind of on the tougher side. Doesn't have a lot of flavors, so I'm not really a fan of. Sirloin is better for roast because you can slow cook it and get it nice and tender over several hours. But like a steak, I like my steak meat. I'm a medium rare guy. So if you were to slow cook a sirloin steak, which throwing it on the grill isn't slow cooking, if you were to do it in the oven, you'd get more tender, but it would have to be well done. And well done is not the way I like to go. Like I said, I'm a medium rare guy. That's sirloin, and then filet is another healthy steak. Very low fat, very tender, and not a whole, kind of like sirloin, not a whole lot of flavor, but it's like the Rolls Royce of steak, filet mignon. So cut from the beef tenderloin, and it's one of my favorites. Probably my favorite is New York strip, because you get porterhouse too. Porterhouse is a little thicker and just cut off the end, whereas T-bones are cut from the center. T-bones and porterhouse, I like thicker steak. Porterhouse is thicker, but both of them, the T-bone and the porterhouse, you get both. It's like the best of both worlds. You kill two birds with one stone, except you don't have to eat it all at once, but you're getting a lot of meat too. It's usually at least a pound, if not more, usually like 20 ounces, including the bone, the T-bone. But you're getting the New York strip and the filet of both, and very little fat, a lot of flavor, very tender. New York strip, again, very low fat, tender, a lot of flavor. It's one of my favorites. Also, ribeye. Ribeye is very tender. Ribeye is very flavorful. The only downside of ribeye is, like prime rib too, it tends to be kind of, that's why it's more tender and more flavorful, because there is a heck of a lot of fat on it. Pretty expensive. Of course, the price of beef, even for cheaper cuts right now, the price of beef is just skyrocketed. It's so out of control. So I'm on a budget, so I really don't eat steak a whole lot, even though it's one of my favorite foods. The one steak that I have, when I have been making steak lately, the one steak I have been purchasing is, that I recently discovered, it's kind of like a poor man's ribeye. It's called chuck eye steak. Yeah, chuck tends to be, it's kind of like sirloin. If you want it really tender, you have to slow cook it. Like chuck roast is what's used to make pot roast. Pot roast is slow cooked over several hours to get nice and tender, well done. But like I said, I'm still a medium rare guy, so that's one of those steaks. It's got not as much fat as a ribeye, a little less fat. That's why it's kind of more tougher. But it's kind of got the flavor of a ribeye. So, and it's budget friendly, so that's the steak. Even though I don't buy steak that much, that's the steak I've been making lately. So that I think pretty much covers all the basic, the main steaks out there. And there's fajitas and tacos. So there's like skirt steak and flank steak, which those are very flavorful, very tender, very little fat. Those are usually used for like steak tacos, steak fajitas, things like that. Other things that you use, you could use it for like beef stroganoff, that sort of thing. And I was going to talk about the best way to cook a steak. I'm a grill guy. The charcoal grill is the best way to go. I don't have a charcoal grill. I have a gas grill, but I think I'm going to invest because a lot of people in my family, my wife, doesn't really like food off of the charcoal grill. They don't really like that charcoal flavor. I like it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to invest or maybe ask for it for Christmas. Ask for just, because I, just going to make a burger or steak for myself. I can just get one of those little ones, not a huge one. I got a gas grill, Weber Genesis. It's like a 3-burner. So I've had that for, I think about 10 years, over 10 years, like 12 years now. It's still in pretty good shape, still working pretty well. That's my favorite way to grill. I like that, grilled flavor. Charcoal is better than gas. Gas is more convenient, but charcoal takes a little longer. It's not as convenient. But I think the flavor is much better off of a charcoal grill. I don't know, there is some speculation that you're more like prone to get cancer if you're eating food off of a charcoal grill. I guess that's not really the best thing for you. It's a thing you should probably do in moderation. I don't know, there's a lot of myths out there. It's like, one day they tell you that tomatoes are great for you, eat a lot of tomatoes, but then they're telling you, oh, don't eat tomatoes. They're loaded with sugar. You don't want to get too much sugar in you. And then same with eggs. Sometimes they're labeled as a health food, which I think they are. I've had a couple personal trainers even my nutritionist told me to go for a lot of eggs, but then someone said like, oh, I know it used to be a thing back in the 80s and the 90s. I don't know if it's still a thing. I know I eat definitely I probably eat like at least like 10 eggs a week, if not more. They used to say no more than 4 eggs a week because of the fat of the yolk. They said like you could go for or you have like more whites. I think egg whites are like the healthiest protein that you could eat. They used to say egg beaters has like more whites than yolks, or you could actually do that yourself at home. But I think they said, yeah, if I don't have high cholesterol, my cholesterol is pretty low. So I think they said, yeah, as long as you don't have high cholesterol, you can enjoy the benefit of the full egg, the whole egg, the yolk. But yeah, I know there was some scare about eggs because of the yolks being high in fat. But I think that a personal trainer told me that it's the good fat. The fat that you want. It's the good cholesterol, but who knows? There's so much misinformation, so many myths, so many theories out there. So getting back to what I was saying, I think grilling is the best way to cook a steak. One time I was without a grill. When I first moved out to Arizona, a lot of my big stuff was still left behind back in Illinois, so I didn't have my grill yet. So I did have a cast iron skillet. That is the second best way to cook a steak, I think. I've done that before when I was without a grill. You can do it in a skillet. It doesn't have to be a cast iron skillet, but I think a cast iron skillet, you really get a nice sear on the steak. Grilling, you can get a good sear too, even medium rare, as long as you get the grill nice and hot. Don't put that steak on if the grill's not too hot yet, so you won't get that good sear. But even medium rare, you get the grill up to like 450, 500 degrees. You get good sear in that steak, even if it's just cooked medium rare. Pan searing, though, does get a probably better sear than grilling, I will say that. And that's why Gordon Ramsay, he's one of the best chefs in the world, and he cooks a steak like that. He typically pan sears his steak in butter, throws in some like whole garlic cloves and some thyme and rosemary, something like that, and he constantly is. And you see when on Hell's Kitchen, the contestants, they cook their steaks that way. They usually don't grill them. They're typically constantly taking their spoon and basting the steak with butter. And that is a good way to go. I've never done sous vide, but I heard the third best way is a reverse sear. I've never done sous vide cooking, but I heard that's a good way to do it. You can sous vide it and then just get it like to rare. And then instead of searing it beforehand, sear it at the end. That's basically what a reverse sear is. You get up to temperature, and then you could just, instead of searing it beforehand, you sear it afterwards. Get a nice searing it, because sous vide, it's like if you don't sear the food, it's kind of like it's just steamed in a bag, which I think that's what it is. I think the food is just kind of, so to speak, like steamed in a bag, but you sear it at the end, it won't have that steamed look or taste to it. But yeah, I'm definitely a former chef, steak connoisseur. It's my favorite food. Just wish it wasn't so expensive. So I definitely do more burgers and steaks. I definitely try to watch my money, but yeah, I'm definitely one of those. When it comes to food, I definitely have champagne taste, but a beer budget, so to speak. So yeah, I think that covers everything I wanted to say about steak for tonight. Let me know your opinions, your experiences with steak. I know it's more of a guy thing than a girl thing. I think more men are into meat and grilling than women are, but I'm sure there's plenty of women out there that love steak too. It was funny, my wife never had steak before, but she didn't want to starve. Took her to a wedding, and my cousin was getting married, and filet mignon was on the menu. That was the entree, and it was served with a garlic butter. She actually loved that. That's the only steak that she likes, mainly because it's tender, very little fat. She doesn't like fat. She doesn't like tough meat. My mom's kind of like that too. And she did go to a steakhouse with some friends, and I can't believe of all things, they didn't have just a plain garlic butter, compound butter. They had a gorgonzola. I make it for my wife when I make filet mignon for her. I make a gorgon. It tastes just like it, the way I tasted it in the restaurant. Made at home, just garlic, salt and pepper, some chives, and gorgonzola cheese, some butter, and just whip it up. And I put it as a gorgonzola garlic butter. I put it on the steak for her. And that's what she had at the restaurant. She called me up to tell me about it. I'm like, oh my God, like I can't believe that. Of all things, you like gorgonzola cheese. Gorgonzola is kind of like blue cheese is the French version. Gorgonzola cheese is like the Italian version of blue cheese, more mild, not as strong as French blue cheese. So yeah, that's my story with that. My thoughts on steak for tonight. So I'll talk to you all real soon. Have a great weekend, everybody. Comment, like, share, subscribe. Shout out to my 351 subscribers. So thankful for you. And we'll talk to you all real soon with another great video. Once again, have a great weekend, everybody. And talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.